Welcome to the Caminada podcast. Here's the place to find support and guidance on your spiritual awakening and healing journey. It is my mission to help you awaken, heal, and expand your consciousness. Hello, beautiful soul. I am so glad that you're here. I'm grateful and honored that you chose to listen to the Caminada podcast. In this two-part solocast episode, I'm going to attempt to give you a simple and hopefully clear explanation of what the 5D consciousness means. So in this first part, I will talk about the difference between dimensions, density, and consciousness so that we can establish a good foundation to understand the shift into 5D consciousness and everything else. And then in the next part, I will talk about the characteristics of the 5D level of consciousness, how we, both as individuals and collective, are shifting into these higher states of consciousness, and why the 5D is so important and so talked about at the moment. And also, I will talk about how we can apply this knowledge into our everyday lives. So if you have no clue what 5D consciousness is, or if you've heard of it but don't know much about it and you're curious, you're interested, you want to learn more about it, this show is for you. Now, before I get into today's episode, I just have a small favor to ask of you, and that is to take a moment of your time and leave a review on my podcast on Apple Podcast, because when you do this, you help me reach more beautiful souls and help fellow humans to expand their consciousness. So make sure you also hit the subscribe button in whatever platform you're listening to this podcast so that you never miss any future content. All right, so let's take the first thing out of the way. And the first thing that we need to understand is the difference between dimension, density, and consciousness. So dimension has to do with density, which has to do with gravity and matter. So we are in 3D, third dimension. That's where we live, and it is dense because it's physical. There's material, matter. So everything is energy, but here in 3D, energy is transformed into matter, and 3D does vibrate in lower frequencies than 5D, but it does vibrate higher in terms of frequencies than the first and the second dimension. So imagine that the higher you go, the less density and the less gravity. Right. All dimensions in the universe shares the one consciousness, or just the oneness, which simply put could be defined as the source, the seed of life, all there is, the universe, the creator, whatever you resonate with. I like the idea of the seed of life as the one consciousness because you imagine that that's where everything started, that's where everything has been created from. Right, then each dimension has a level of consciousness. They do intersect. But imagine that as it goes up, it gets closer to the one consciousness. So for example, 1D and 2D levels of consciousness are lower than 3D. But 4D and 5D are higher than 3D. It does not mean it's better or worse. This is just sort of a structure that this one consciousness has spread into the galaxy. And it's also the way that we can expand and remember who we are at our core, in our essence. So the idea of better or worse is actually something that we have in this 3D level of consciousness, which I'll get into in a moment. This podcast is sponsored by the Chakra Bombs. The Chakra Bombs are hand blended and customized to help you balance the 7 chakras. Each bomb contains over 120 drops of 5 custom blended pure essential oils specifically focused for each chakra. So all you have to do, you apply a small amount of the chakra bomb onto the corresponding area of your body before your yoga, meditation, your breath work, or any spiritual practice. And you can also use them daily to assist you in being more balanced, more open, more connected, and grounded. And on top of all of that, they smell amazing. If you would like to get yours, you can use my coupon is Caminada 10. So all you have to do is go to chakrabombs.com, go to full set, and use my coupon Caminada 10. I promise you'll love them. So I've been reading this book called The Alchemy of 9 Dimensions by Barbara Hancock. She also wrote the Pleiadian Agenda, which is next in my to read list. And I've been studying actually these books and her work. And she says that the human being has access to 9 dimensions of consciousness. There are more dimensions though, but she says that we as human beings in this 3D dimension, this third dimension, we have access to 9 dimensions of consciousness. So I'll probably have to do another episode just on that so that this all gets a bit clearer. So please let me know in the comments or messages if you would like that. So what this means is we have access to the consciousness of those dimensions, not the dimension itself. And that's what I wanted to get out of the way, because it can be confusing when people think of shifting into 5D. They might think that we're leaving planet Earth and going to a different place. So when we're talking about dimensions, yes, we are talking about another space and time, the time as we know it, another perception of time. 3D world, third dimension, is a place. That's where we're living. In fact, we are the gatekeepers of the third dimension. Surprise. As each dimension has a certain kind of species as gatekeepers. Again, I'll have to do an episode just on that. But back to my thought. Dimensions, yes, a different place. But consciousness is not a place. Because everything has consciousness. If consciousness is the seed of life, like I mentioned, we have consciousness. A leaf has consciousness. A bug has consciousness. Everything. But according to Barbara's work, the human being has access to these 9 levels of consciousness, unlike a bug. See how powerful we are? So I could say that consciousness is how aware one is of the entire universe, of the oneness. Again, a leaf, a bug, or a bacteria are not aware. They are divine, perfect beings indeed, but we are intelligent. We are able to expand our consciousness still in this human physical form. And as we do this, the whole planet does too, because we are all connected. All is one. That's the oneness concept. So why would we choose to live within the limitations of 3D level of consciousness if we can expand? And again, by expanding, I don't mean we're going to get our bags, our suitcases, and fly out to the 5th dimension, although that would be kind of cool. And by the way, Earth is ready for this expansion. But for Earth and us to heal and expand, we need to make room for the new. The shadow needs to be revealed. The old paradigms need to die. And so that's why we see what we see today. That's why we see the world as it is today. But trust me, this is expansion. This is healing. This is ascension. And maybe you and I will not be alive in this physical form, as we know, to witness this ascension, but we are responsible for this because, remember, we are the gatekeepers of 3D. Oh, and also the third dimension is where the physical and non-physical meet. That's why we have this ability to communicate, to learn from the spiritual world, and to learn from the higher dimensional beings. So now you are probably thinking, what is so special about the 5D level of consciousness? And, what's up with the fourth dimension? Do we just skip it? What's up with the 4D? So that's what I will tackle in the next episode. So I'll talk about the main characteristics of a 5D level of consciousness and the main differences between 3D and 5D. And yes, I will talk about 4D. Okay, if you would like to experience a really deep meditation that will guide you into higher states of consciousness, I recommend that you listen to my 3D to 5D consciousness meditation. It's available right now on my shop. You can go to www.willcaminada.com/shop. I will leave links in the show's notes as usual. And I hope that was clear. If you have any questions about this topic or any other, you can message me and I'll be happy to answer or create an episode from your questions. So again, in the next episode, I will continue our journey into 5D. So don't forget to subscribe to my podcast and you will be notified when the next episode is on. Usually, there is a new episode every Monday, but there are occasional midweek episodes that I drop. So best thing is to subscribe. And as always, keep shining your light, keep your heart open, and let love lead the way. I love you. See you in the next episode.